Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and today we're going to be showing you an example of how to set up a video door phone. And what do I mean by that? Basically, you take one of these door entry systems. This is the A8105-E from Axis. And this is a little door controller. It's just got a button and a camera. And the notion is when you press the button, it rings one of these phones, one or more of these phones, and then whomever picks it up can see who is outside hitting that button, and then they can choose with a Dtmf code whether or not to allow them to enter that door. All right, so let's show you a quick example. This is the Axis A8105E. I'm going to press the button. It's going to go out to the internet to my cloud-hosted free PBX server. Both of these phones are connected to that free PBX server and configured in a ring group. So when I press the button, both phones will ring, and then whichever phone I answer that call on will have the video from the Axis door entry system show up on the display of the phone, and then I can hit a code which will unlock the door. So I've got a relay set up here. Currently, you can kind of see there or hear it, that it is locked. I cannot open this at the moment. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to hit the button. Both phones are ringing. Let's pick it up over here. Trying to get too much feedback, but there you can see me on the screen. I can even hit it and make myself full screen. And assuming that I'm authorized to enter, we're going to hit 99. Here we can see doors locked. 99. Door is unlocked. And we're locked once again. It only stays unlocked for... It only stays unlocked for 5 seconds. Okay, so we're going to show you how to set all of that stuff up. But let's talk about these components real quickly first. So first we have the door phone itself. Now while I'm using this Axis A8105-E, this can certainly work with all different kinds of SIP-enabled door phones, and you're getting more of those coming onto the market every day. So these have been around for a long time. This is the A8105-E. This big daddy over here is the Axis A8004. This one I've done a full video on already. But there's also devices from CyberData. So CyberData has a couple of them. This is not the video CyberData, but this is kind of a similar look and form factor to the outdoor video phones from CyberData. It looks just like this, but stainless steel, and has a camera integrated right into the center, and then you can get it with or without the keypad. So that would be the CyberData 011414, that's the one with the keypad, or the CyberData 011410, which is the one without the keypad. And there are other video phone vendors as well. The main things that you want to look for in a SIP video phone are that it's SIP, of course, first and foremost, and then second, that it has H.264 video codec support. Now, these devices are not cheap. They may have cheaper ones out on the market, but the ones that I know for sure work, that's the Axis devices and the CyberData devices, the MSRP on this A8105E is $799. The MSRP on the Big Daddy 8004 is $1,249. And then the MSRP on the CyberData with the keypad is $1,023, and without the keypad is $920. Of course, that's MSRP. If you guys are going to buy any of this equipment, contact Crosstalk Solutions, because we get we can give you a pretty significant discount off of MSRP, and for something like these, more expensive door phones, we're talking about 10 to 15% savings over, what the company would charge you directly. Another component of this system is the actual door relay switch. Again, this is very simple setup here. In most cases, it is not best practice to have the relay running directly off the door entry, the video door phone here, because you could potentially yank this off the wall, pull these two wires, sort of hot wire them together, and open up the door that way, right? Which you don't want to do. Best practice security-wise is to have the actual relay that triggers the unlocking of the door in a separate location. And Axis, along with all of these other door entry system vendors are going to have some way to do that. Either they'll have a little tiny relay box that goes, somewhere that's not right on the door phone itself, or they have sort of a central server that handles all of the relays and the wiring and all that sort of good stuff. But again, this is just a real simple door entry or a door relay system. I'll put links to all of this equipment down below in the description if you guys want to check out how I've got it set up. And for this door relay, I just have it wired into the NO/NC. The white cable goes into the NO/NC part of the little green accessory board back here. And then the red goes into the CO, which is going to be basically how you would set up any of these relay systems. There's two videos that you might want to watch in order to get a better understanding of how all of this works. I did a video specifically on relays, so that's one, like relays, how do they work, how do you wire them up? I even drew it sort of on the whiteboard, hey, this is how a relay is supposed to be wired into the door phone. And then I also did a full video on the setup of this beast, the Axis 8004. And this thing's amazing. I mean, this is a very simple door phone. This does so much more. Multiple relays right out on the back of the system. Very secure, very weatherproof. And yeah, boy, this thing is just awesome. But I did a full video on the setup. The setup that we're going to do today is very similar, but I'm not going to go through the entire process, the entire setup process like I did with this one. So if you're interested in that setup process, check out the Axis 8004 video, and I will again put links to all of this in the description below. The next piece of the puzzle is the PBX itself. Now in my case, I'm using a Crosstalk hosted PBX. It's running FreePBX, the latest version of FreePBX, and I'll show you the setup of FreePBX a little bit later in this video. However, most modern PBXs are going to be able to do H.264 support, which is what you need for most of these door phones. But I did want to show that it is running on a hosted PBX that's not local to my local area network, because it sort of opens up what you can do with this system. You can have a phone in the ring group in New York City and have this button on this door control in Los Angeles. You hit this button, it rings the phone in New York, and that whomever answers it in New York has the ability to unlock the door in Los Angeles. I mean, you could do that with a non-hosted PBX as well, but when we're setting up systems where we have a company that is geographically separated across multiple locations, a hosted phone system just makes so much sense these days, and that's usually our go-to unless someone has all of their phones in a single location, in which case we still just do a server. Finally, we have the phones. Now, the phones are also not super inexpensive here. This is the Yealink T58A. I just did a video on this phone last week. I absolutely love this phone. I still love this phone. It has amazing audio quality, but it's kind of pricey, right? So without the camera on top, which you don't need for the door phone, this isn't a two-way video call, right? If you're calling between two of these phones, you might want the cameras, but you don't need the camera on top of this phone for this application. So without the camera, the Yealink T58A retails for about $245. There are other phones that can also do this a little bit cheaper, but one of the cheaper phones that I found that has H.264 support is the Grandstream GXV3240. I don't like Grandstream phones. I don't like Grandstream PBX systems. There's a ton of reasons why I don't like Grandstream phones or Grandstream PBX systems, but that phone should work with this same exact setup. So if I just swapped out this Yealink for a Grandstream phone, I should be able to do video calling. That Grandstream GXV3240 is $215, and it'll work. It should work just fine, but you will lose some other functionality in FreePBX. Now, speaking of FreePBX again, other phone systems can do this as well. I believe 3CX has H.264 support. I know that Grandstream phone systems have H.264 support. So again, this general setup that I'm doing should work with a lot of different equipment. I'm just going to show you the Axis with the Yealink on FreePBX, and if you guys have 3CX or Grandstream or different kind of phone that does H.264, just sort of modify what I'm doing here for your particular scenario. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to my computer and we'll dig into the details of how these are set up in both FreePBX and in the Axis device itself, and then we'll do one more close-up of sort of how the whole relay thing all works together once we understand how the configuration gets input into those various places. All right, let's move over to the computer. Okay, so we're going to start this setup in FreePBX, and here I am logged into my FreePBX dashboard. This is a hosted FreePBX that's running version 14.0.11. It's basically fully up-to-date version of 14 as of the recording of this video, which is in May 2019. The first thing that you need to do on FreePBX is enable video codec support, because this is not enabled by default. So to do that, you want to go to Settings, and then *SIP Settings. And once you're on the *SIP Settings page, you want to scroll all the way to the bottom. And here you can see video support. By default, it is disabled, but we want to click Enabled, and then make sure that H.264 is at the very top. These access devices will actually do H.264 or VP8. However, since I'm only using H.264, you can actually only enable the H.264 codec, and this should still work perfectly fine. Click Submit there, and that's all you need to do for that part of the setup. The next thing you need is an extension for each of the phones that are going to receive those video calls. There's no difference in setting up the extension for instance, the Yealink T58A than there is with any other just regular non-video SIP extension. So let's take a look at one of my extensions. Here we have extension 202. I'm going to edit that extension. Now, my extensions are running the PJ-SIP protocol on port 5061. That's a little bit technical, but basically none of that matters. It'll work with ChanSIP, it'll work with PJ-SIP, as long as the phone is registered to the server and the door phone is also registered to the server, everything should work perfectly fine. So I've created an extension for my Yealink video phones. You also need to create extensions for your door phone. So let's look at that next. Applications, Extensions. And here we have the Access 8105-E. I've set as extension 300, again, also using PJ-SIP. And when I edit it, again, nothing special about this extension. We're just creating this extension so that these devices can register to the FreePBX server. Once they're registered, since we've allowed the H.264 codec, if that codec is enabled on both of these devices, the door phone and the Yealink, then it'll work just fine. So you need H.264 on both those devices, which is enabled by default, and then you need H.264 in FreePBX, which is not enabled by default, but since we've enabled it, it will create H.264 between these two extensions. Now, if you're just going to be connecting one door phone to one video extension for that communication, then you're basically done here. However, in my case, I wanted to set up a ring group where multiple phones, they don't even have to be in the same office, are going to be rung when that button is pressed on the door phone, and any phone that picks up that call will see the H.264 video, and they'll be able to enter in a DTMF code to unlock the door. That being said, though, there's a little bit of an extra step here in that what if you dial that ring group and none of the phones picks up, right? You want to have some way to let the person who pressed the button at the door know that, hey, no one's picking up the phone. So the first thing I did was I created a new system recording. So we'll go to System Recordings. And I just recorded this door entry no answer system recording. And if we edit it and play it, we'll hear what it says.
We aren't available to open the door at this time, so please walk around to the main entrance of the building or call 555-1212 for our after-hours on-call staff.
Right, so basically, it's just a message that states, hey, sorry we didn't answer the door, and here's some instructions for what to do next since we didn't answer the door, right? Walk around to the front of the building, to the main entrance, or call this phone number, whatever you want to say. It's a really good idea to have this in place for those times when someone hits that button and no one actually answers the call. Now that we've uploaded our system recording, we need to assign that to an announcement. So it doesn't need to be an IVR or anything complicated. We want to create an announcement that's going to play that system recording that we recorded and then terminate the call, as in hang up the call. So let's go to Applications, Announcements. And I've created an announcement here called Door Entry No Answer. Let's go ahead and open that up, and we can see Door Entry No Answer. And the recording is Door Entry No Answer. It's the system recording that I just uploaded. And then destination after playback is to just terminate the call and hang up. We don't want to go to a voicemail. We don't want to do anything with this call other than just disconnect it. We're going to play the recording. It tells the person hitting that button, hey, this is what you need to do since we didn't answer, and then we're hanging up. Okay, so now that we have that system recording in place, let's use it in a ring group, which is going to ring multiple phones. So we want to go to Applications and Ring Groups, and we're going to add a new ring group. In this case, my ring group that I've added already is extension 500, which is for reception. In my fictional company here that we're setting up this door phone for, they have, say, 2 receptionists that are on call, and we want both of those phones to ring when someone hits the video door button. All right, so we're going to edit that ring group. And I've taken the 2 extensions that I created for my 2 Yealink phones, extension 202 and extension 203, and I have added those to the extension list. I've also dropped the ring time down to 10. That means it's 10 seconds before it goes to the failover destination. In most cases, you're going to want that higher. And keep in mind that with FreePBX, it's 5 seconds per ring, or actually in most phone systems. So if I set this to 20 seconds, then that's basically 4 rings before we go to a failover location. And the destination, if no answer, is announcements, door entry, no answer. So we've sort of come full circle and our setup is complete. Let's go ahead and test that out and actually press the button and see what happens when it actually times out. So my 2 phones are ringing, and I can hear feedback of ringing on the door phone itself. It should be about 2.5 rings, and then I'll hear that system recording that I recorded.
We aren't available to open the door at this time, so please walk around to the main entrance of the building or call 555-1212 for our after-hours on-call staff.
There we go, and then the call hangs up. Once everything is in place here, make sure you hit the Apply Config button up at the top, and now it's time to move over to the configuration of the Access door phone. Okay, switching over to the Access now, we can see here I'm logged into the Access A8105-E Network Video Door Station, and here we can see a live view of what's happening right now. If you click on Setup, that's going to get us over to the basic setup wizard, which I recommend if you're setting this device up for the first time. Just as a reminder, if you guys are looking for the full setup of an Access video door station, check out my video on the 8004. It's very similar to this, and I go through the entire wizard and the full setup from start to finish. In this video, I'm mostly just going to go over what settings I used for this particular project. Okay, so we're going to skip the basic setup wizard, but the first thing we want to click on is VoIP and then account settings. So this is part of the setup wizard if you went through the setup wizard, but basically we can see here that I have set up a FreePBX, my SIP testing FreePBX system, and we can see that we are registered okay. And really that's what you want. You want to register the access to the extension that we created in FreePBX. In this case, it was extension 300. Let's take a quick look at those settings. We're going to click Modify, and here we go. So we can see user ID 300, caller ID 300, registrar address, and then the password. That's really all there is to it. Just below that, we have Dtmf settings. Now, what this allows us to do is it allows us to create a Dtmf code. Now, this doesn't allow us to actually do anything with the Dtmf code yet, but this is where we can set up multiple Dtmf codes that can be used however we want, and you'll see that in the event settings in just a second here. So if we click on my SIP testing extension 300, we can see that I have created one Dtmf sequence, and that is sequence code 99. That is the code for opening. It's going to be the code for opening up the door. So let's just edit this. Very simple. We can see I created a Dtmf using either SIP info or RTP, and if we modify it, it literally just lets us have the name and then the digits that we are creating as a sequence. Very simple. Okay, so next thing we want to do is come down here to Events, and we want to make sure that we have a recipient. Click on Events and then Recipients. We'll get to the action rules in just a second. But I have 2 different recipients here. One is extension 202. That's just one of the T58As. I can use that recipient if I want to send calls directly to one of the phones. Notice that that's running on port 5160 because that extension uses PJ-SIP. Our ring group, however, uses CHAN-SIP, which runs on 5060. Again, your settings may be different in your own FreePBX, but there's also reception to ring group, which is 500 at my server, right? So let's modify that. And again, very simple setup. You give it a name, it's type SIP, and then here's the SIP account that we're using. And then to SIP address is just 500 at, and then the IP address or FQDN of your free PBX. If you want to test the connection, you can select the account that you want to test and just click test. There we can hear stuff's ringing. And it says test succeeded, call was accepted by remote. Okay, so we have our recipient. Again, you can either have a direct extension recipient or a ring group recipient. In this case, we're going to use our ring group recipient because I want both of the phones to ring. And now we're going to go to our action rules. So there's 3 action rules here. The first action rule is just basically what happens when I press this button. All right, so that is down here. Button, you can see the only one that I have right now, because I'm not using Axis's VMS or their software for monitoring the button presses and the video. They have a separate software for that. I'm not using the software. We're just going to hit the button to make a phone call. And that phone call is going to go to right here. I can send it directly to one of the phones, or in my case, I'm sending it to reception 2, which is my ring group. Let me go ahead and modify that so we can see it. And so we're enabling the rule. It's a button make call rule. The trigger is the input signal, digital input port, call button port 1. And again, there is only one button on this thing, so it's really easy to figure out which button you need to select. And then you can run these on a schedule, right? So that during the daytime, during business hours, when you press the button, it does something different than after business hours. So for instance, if you wanted it so that when you press the button, it just unlocks the door automatically during business hours, you can do that. And then after hours, it would switch to where it actually calls a phone, and then someone has to manually trigger the DTMF code to open the door. In our case, though, we're just going to say no schedule. This is how we always want it to run. And down here, the action to take when the button is pressed is to make call to reception 2. And if we wanted to, we could also just add a brand new recipient right here. All right, so let's close out of that rule. So that's the first of 3. The second rule is what happens when we dial 99 DTMF code. So let's go over here to open door. This is a new rule that I created. Modify that. And what we can see here is the trigger is a call and the DTMF of the call. And then we're going to run open. And open is the DTMF code that I created. So it's 99, right? And I called it open. I should have made it something that's a little bit more obvious here, but I did just call it open. And then again, always on the same schedule, and when it receives the 99 open DTMF code, what do? Well, we're going to go output port, door, set state to active, and then I check this box for a duration, and the duration is going to go to the opposite state after 5 seconds. So what that means is you press the button, it makes the call. As soon as the receptionist or whomever picks up the call dials 99, this gets triggered to flip the relay, which opens the door, unlocks the door, and it holds the door unlocked for 5 seconds and then goes locked again. So very simple there. And then finally, the last thing I have is a dog barking noise. So we scroll up, we can see here bark bark. We're going to modify this rule. And this bark bark only happens when this relay is triggered, right? So the trigger is relay hardware, relays and outputs, door, active, right? So basically when the door trigger becomes active, and it is the only relay in here. There's 2. There's a tamper-proof hardware relay in here as well, or hardware trigger, I guess. But it's really easy to set these up because we know it's not the tamper. It's going to be the door. And then the state that we want the sound to happen on is when it's active. Now, I have it doing a bark bark dog noise, but that's where you would have like a buzzer, right? So like if you wanted to buzz someone in, right, you would say when the relay is triggered into active state, meaning when the door gets unlocked, also trigger this noise. And maybe it's like a 5-second buzzer noise, which plays for the duration of when the door is unlocked. In our case, though, we're just doing play audio clip dog barking. But look at all this other stuff you could do. Activate light, access door control that interfaces with the main sort of access control servers and stuff like that. Defog mode, I don't know what that is. You can make a call out somewhere else. This is a pretty interesting one. Send images. So we could also say whenever anyone presses the doorbell, take a picture and send it to like an FTP server or something. or a notification, or an SNMP trap, or actually a video clip. So all stuff that you might want to consider doing depending on how secure you want your system to be. Okay, and then we are not going to repeat that clip. We're not going to repeat the noise. We're just going to play the dog barking or the buzzer or whatever just one time. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Let's flip over and take a closer look one more time at how all of these pieces fit together to create a super kick-ass door entry system. All right, so I've got everything zoomed in nice and tight here. And again, we've got my Axis A8105E, which is connected as an extension on my hosted free PBX server. It's powered up by Power over Ethernet, and I also have an active relay which keeps a door locked. You can see we are in locked mode right now. It is not letting me trigger that relay. I'm not able to open the door at the moment. And that is also fed into this phone right here, which is part of a ring group, also on that hosted free PBX system. And when I press the button, it's going to make a call to the ring group. It's going to ring both of these phones that are sitting on my desk. I'm going to pick it up with this extension here, and then we will be able to dial 99 to activate the relay, which is going to unlock the door. And as soon as the door relay is unlocked, it's going to play a dog bark noise through the Axis A8105E. Okay, it's a lot of moving parts, but this does work very nicely once it's all set up. Okay, so let's make that call. I'm going to hit the button. There we go, picking up the call here. Put that down there because I don't want it to feed back, but here we go. You can see me. And if I click right here, you can actually put me into full screen mode. That's pretty cool. And this is actually pretty nice. It's pretty low latency over a free PBX hosted connection. In fact, that reminds me, I'm going to show you before we finish this video, I'm going to show you, actually I'll look into this camera. I'm going to show you, before we finish this video, the actual throughput on free PBX when one of these calls is happening. Okay, in the meantime though, let's press 99 to open the relay, and then we'll hear the dog bark noise also. So right now we're locked. Can't do anything, locked. Let's hit 99. Unlocked. Unlocked for 5 seconds. Oh, now we're locked again. There we go. And as soon as you hang up, white light on the Axis is going to go out. There we go. Okay, let's check out the throughput that this device puts onto free PBX or onto the network in general. Again, on a local area network, it's going to be next to nothing, but you might be concerned about how much bandwidth is going out to the internet if you are using a hosted free PBX like I am. So let's grab our device, and we're going to initiate a call. Right here I have the dashboard of free PBX, and you can see right where it says live network usage. This is my current amount of bandwidth being used. It's very minimal, at about 1 kilobits per second right now. So let's go ahead and make that phone call. You should see it spike up almost immediately, and while it's ringing, it's up at about 1 megabit. Put that down there. Okay, so we have an active video call in progress. Now, it's pretty interesting because the H.264 is a variable bitrate stream. So right now, it's pushing about 140 to 160 kilobits per second. But if I start moving it around, it's pushing a lot more data. Now look at that. So as soon as I start moving the camera around, we jump up to about 1.2 megabits per second. Okay, so or 1200 kilobits per second. You leave it alone and just leave it as a static image, the throughput, the bandwidth drops significantly. You can see right here, it just dropped back down again because the picture's not changing so much, so there isn't as much data shooting out to my hosted free PBX. Again, we're right around 200 kilobits per second. I start moving it around, and our maximum bounces up to about 1.2 megabits worth of throughput. Okay, so there you have it. What do you guys think about this whole setup? Let me know also if you have other equipment that you've used, especially if it's a little bit less expensive than the stuff that I've shown here. I'd be very curious to test it out myself to see if it works as well. Like if a $400 video door phone works as well as the $900 video door phone. Other than that, if you guys are looking to purchase any of this equipment, again, contact Crosstalk Solutions. We can offer some pretty steep discounts on all of this and a lot more. Contact us for any of your voice over IP and telephony needs. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please click subscribe. My name's Chris with Crosstalk Solutions, and thank you so much for watching.